Hi, a very good morning. I am Lakshminarayana Gunta, NEET Faculty Zoology at Super 60 Duppalvalsa, Srikakulam. Today our topic is the Human Endocrine System Part 1. As we already have learnt in the glandular epithelium, there are two types of glands based on their mode of poring. They are exocrine glands and endocrine glands. Exocrine glands, they are ducted glands, means they contain ducts, and their secretions are called as enzymes. Whereas endocrine glands, they are ductless glands, that means they lack ducts, and their secretions are called as hormones. Endocrine glands, they are ductless glands, and their secretions are called as hormones. These hormones carried from the site of secretion to the target organ through blood. As they don't have ducts, they have to send their secretions through the blood. Take for an example here, you can observe the pituitary gland. This posterior pituitary, it releases two hormones, the ADH and oxytocin. Here we are discussing about this ADH, which is also called as vasopressin. It is released by the posterior pituitary and it acts there at the kidney. Means they are carried from the site of secretion to their target organ through blood. These hormones, they are non-nutrient chemicals which act as an intercellular messenger, means they act as a messenger between cell to cell and are produced in trace amounts. Produced in trace amounts means small amounts. Even though they are produced in trace amounts, their effect is long lasting. The hormone, the term was first coined by Starling and Bayliss. The first hormone identified is the secretin. Secretin, which is secreted by the S cells present in the duodenum, walls of the duodenum. This secretin is the first identified and first detected hormone. These hormones, they are useful for long distance signaling. Even though they are meant for long distance signaling, some hormones like gastrin, somatostatin, these are meant for local signaling. Gastrin, take for an example gastrin, which is secreted by the walls of the stomach and also some amount by the walls of the duodenum. This hormone act itself there at the stomach. And similarly the somatostatin is also called as growth hormone inhibiting hormone. These are meant for local signaling. And these hormones, they are short-lived and site-specific. Site-specific means, take for an example, adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is released by the pituitary, and it acts only on the adrenal cortex, but it never acts on other sites. Means they are site-specific. The site of action of ACTH is adrenal cortex, and the thyroxine and somatotropic hormone, they are effective on all somatic cells. And these hormones, they are excreted through the bile and urine. And let us discuss the endocrine glands one by one. The hypothalamus. It is located below the thalamus and the floor of the diencephalon. Here you can observe the thalamus, hypothalamus, and this is also located at the floor of the diencephalon. Neurosecretory cells present in the form of several groups of cells called nuclei. These nuclei, they produce neurohormones. These neurohormones, they directly control the pituitary. That's why this hypothalamus is called as the master control center of the endocrine system. Here you can observe clearly the hypothalamus. It releases two types of hormones. The first type of hormones are releasing hormones. These releasing hormones, they stimulate the secretion of pituitary hormones. Here an example is given. GHRH means growth hormone releasing hormone. It is also called as somatocrine, which is responsible for the release of growth hormone from the pituitary. If this GHRH is released from the hypothalamus, this GHRH in turn, it acts on the pituitary, that is the anterior pituitary, and thereby this anterior pituitary, it releases growth hormone. Okay, and the second type of hormones released by hypothalamus are inhibiting hormones. These inhibiting hormones, they stimulate the inhibition of pituitary hormones. Example, GHIH. GHIH means somatostatin. This growth hormone, inhibitory hormone, which is secreted by the hypothalamus, is released into the pituitary, and thereby the growth hormone is stopped. Okay, similarly, GnRH, growth gonadotrophic releasing hormone, which acts on the gonadotropins, means the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, they are released. Similarly, GnIH, gonadotrophic inhibiting hormones, they stop the production of this follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Similarly, this hypothalamus releases these releasing hormones and inhibiting hormones. Coming to the next important gland, that is pituitary gland. This pituitary gland is also called as hypophysis. As it is located at the beneath the hypothalamus, or at the base of the hypothalamus. Okay, this is a small, round and unpaired structure weighing about 0.5 grams, and it is in the size of a peanut. Okay, and it lies in a bony depression called as sella turcica of the sphenoid bone. Sphenoid bone, we already know that it is called as the keystone bone of the cranium. Okay, and here you can observe the pituitary. This pituitary is anatomically divided into two portions according to NCERT syllabus. It is anatomically divided into adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. Here, this portion is called as adenohypophysis, and this portion is called as neurohypophysis. And this adenohypophysis again contains two regions, the pars distalis and the pars intermedia. This one is called as pars distalis, and the small region which is present between the adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis is the pars intermedia. This is the smallest portion, and this pars intermedia is almost merged in the pars distalis. Okay. This pars distalis produces a number of hormones like growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and prolactin or luteotrophic hormone. Okay. All these hormones, they are called as trophic hormones because they stimulate the production of hormones in other parts. That's why they are called as trophic hormones. These are all the trophic hormones released by the pars distalis. Okay. Growth hormone, which is also called as the somatotropin. It releases insulin-like growth factors from the liver. This growth hormone acts mostly on the cells of the liver, and the functions of this insulin-like growth factors are, it stimulates the cell division in epiphyseal plates of the bone, thereby the size of the bones increases. And the second one is thyroid stimulating hormone or thyrotropin. It is also called as thyrotropin. This thyroid stimulating hormone, it acts on the thyroid, and in turn the thyroid releases the hormones, thyroxine, etc. Okay, coming to the next one, adrenocorticotropic hormone. This adrenocorticotropic hormone, it acts on the adrenal cortex, which is present on the kidneys. This adrenocorticotropic hormone, it controls the synthesis and secretion of glucocorticoids from the adrenal cortex. And coming to the next one, these two, the luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, they are together called as the gonadotrophic hormones. And the prolactin. Prolactin is also called as lactogenic hormone or luteotrophic hormone. It causes the enlargement of mammary glands and prepares the mammary glands for milk production. It also initiates and sustains lactation. Okay, as it maintains the corpus luteum of the ovary, it is also called as luteotrophic hormone. And this pars intermedia of adenohypophysis, it releases only one hormone called as melanocyte stimulating hormone. This melanocyte stimulating hormone, it is responsible for the darkening of hair. It by increasing the deposition of melanin in the developing hair shafts. Okay. In lower vertebrates, it regulates the pigmentation in melanocytes. Okay. Coming to the next one, the neurohypophysis is also called as the posterior pituitary, also called as the pars nervosa. Pars nervosa. This is adenohypophysis, and this one is neurohypophysis. This neurohypophysis is also called as pars nervosa. This neurohypophysis, it stores and releases two hormones which are produced by the hypothalamus, oxytocin and vasopressin. These two hormones, they are stored in the neurohypophysis and released. Okay, this oxytocin is this uterus and also the mammary glands. During pregnancy, during the parturition, oxytocin, it stimulates the smooth muscles present in the walls of the uterus for contractions and relaxations, and also after delivery, it also acts on the mammary glands to release the milk. Okay. The second hormone released by this pars nervosa is vasopressin, also called as antidiuretic hormone, which is responsible for the reabsorption of water and electrolytes by the distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct in kidneys. Okay. Coming to the third gland, the pineal gland. This pineal gland is also called as epiphysis cerebri. This pineal gland is located at the dorsal surface of the diencephalon. Here you can observe the pineal gland. It is located at the dorsal surface of the diencephalon. This is diencephalon and it is located at the dorsal surface. Okay. It releases a hormone called as melatonin. This melatonin has a role in circadian rhythms. Here we may confuse with the MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone, which is secreted by the pars intermedia, and this is melatonin, that is melanocyte stimulating hormone, which is responsible for the darkening of hair. Here this melatonin, that one is melanocyte stimulating hormone. This melatonin, it is having an important role in circadian rhythms, sleep and wake cycles, and body temperature, etc. And the main target of this pineal gland is suprachiasmatic nucleus. Suprachiasmatic nucleus, responsible for the biological clocks in human beings. Okay, that's why this pineal gland is responsible for sleep and wake cycles, also circadian rhythms. And coming to the next important gland, thyroid gland. It is the largest endocrine gland in our body. Okay, here you can observe the thyroid gland, and it is located at the junction of the larynx and the trachea. It is larynx and this one is trachea. It is located at the junction and it is an unpaired structure, unpaired gland with two lobes. The left lobe and the right lobe. These two lobes, they are connected with each other with a thin flap-like structure called as isthmus. Okay. Isthmus, it connects the two lobes of the thyroid gland. Okay. This thyroid gland is H-shaped or butterfly-shaped one. Here you can observe it is H-shape or butterfly shape, and with follicles and stromal tissue. These are follicles. These are follicles of the thyroid. Okay. These follicles, the thyroid gland produces two hormones majorly. They are thyroxine and calcitonin. And here the thyroid hormones T3 and T4. T3, the chief mineral in thyroxine is iodine. The chief mineral in thyroxine is iodine. And based on the number of iodine molecules, the thyroxine is T4 and T3. T4 means tetraiodothyronine, and T3 means triiodothyronine, T3. And the function of the T3 and T4 is similar. Okay, it is responsible for the regulation of basal metabolic rate. Basal metabolic rate is the rate at which O2 is consumed per unit weight of the body at rest, and this basal metabolic rate is regulated by the thyroxine, and it also maintains the body temperature as it is responsible for the metabolism. As a result of metabolism, some amount of heat is released, which is meant for the temperature of the body. And it also stimulates, it is responsible for stimulation of erythropoiesis, means the production of red blood cells. It maintains the water and electrolyte balance. These are the functions of thyroxine hormones. And the second hormone of this thyroid is calcitonin or thyrocalcitonin, TCT. Here, this is calcitonin. It is released by the thyroid. This calcitonin or thyrocalcitonin, it is produced by the parafollicular cells of the stromal tissue. These are parafollicular. Parafollicular means on the extreme sides. This is released when the concentration of calcium in plasma is high amount of calcium in plasma. It all stimulates the parafollicular cells, and these parafollicular cells, they release this calcitonin. This calcitonin, as it released, it lowers the calcium levels in the blood, and it also inhibits the digestive tract for absorption of calcium ions, and it also promotes the deposition of calcium into the bones. And in the kidneys, it inhibits the calcium reabsorption in kidneys, thereby excess amounts of calcium are excreted through the urine. Means that's why it is called as hypocalcemic hormone. Hypo means lesser amount. It lessens or it decreases the calcium levels in the blood. This calcitonin or thyrocalcitonin, it is responsible for the decreasing of calcium levels in the blood. As the calcium levels are increased, the parafollicular cells, they release calcitonin. This calcitonin, it lowers the level of calcium in blood by accumulating the excess calcium onto the bones, and it also inhibits the reabsorption of calcium by excreting it through urine. Parathyroid glands, they are 4 in number. They are located at the backside of the thyroid gland. You can observe these small button-sized structures. They are called as parathyroid glands, and one pair in each lobe. They are located one pair. This one is one right lobe, and this one is the left lobe. Each lobe contains a pair of parathyroid glands. They secrete a hormone called as parathormone or parathyroid hormone or Colip's hormone. And this parathormone, unlike that of this calcitonin, it acts antagonistic to calcitonin. Whenever the calcium levels in blood are decreased, what happens? This parathormone is released. This parathormone is responsible for the resorption of bone. Resorption of bone increases the calcium level in blood, and it increases the absorption of calcium Ca2 plus from the gut. Unlike that of calcitonin, it increases the absorption. That calcitonin, it decreases the absorption of calcium. Here, it increases the absorption of calcium ions from the gut, and it is very much essential for the activation of vitamin D, calciferol, into its active form, the calcitriol. This calciferol is converted into calcitriol by the action of this parathormone. And the TCT, thyrocalcitonin or calcitonin, and PTH are antagonistic to each other. Already I have told you that the calcitonin, which is produced by the parafollicular cells of thyroid, is completely antagonistic to parathormone. because the calcitonin is hypocalcemic hormone, means it decreases the level of calcium in the blood, whereas this parathormone, it increases the calcium level in the blood. It is called as hypercalcemic hormone. Coming to the next gland, the thymus gland. Thymus gland, it is a lobular structure located just above the heart. Here you can observe the thymus gland. It is a lobular structure, and this thymus gland, it secretes a peptide hormone called as thymosin. This thymus gland, which is small at birth, it is by the time of birth, it is very small in size, and it attains its maximum size at puberty, and at the old age, it becomes degenerated. Okay. The functions of thymosin includes strengthens the immune system. It is very much helpful in humoral immunity and also cell-mediated immunity. By differentiating the T lymphocytes, it is helpful in cell-mediated immunity, and by promotion of production of antibodies to provide humoral immunity.